So do you need commercial insurance for your business? Maybe you have a small home-based business that sells things on eBay. Maybe you have some type of food truck. Maybe you have something that's small. Maybe you have a larger business. It's likely that no matter what business you have, you probably want to have some type of commercial insurance. Sure, if you have a store or a commercial building, you're going to have liability insurance, GL, maybe E&O insurance. But what about a home-based business? Well, keep in mind a few things. Now remember, we're not attorneys. We're not giving you legal advice. We are commercial insurance agents, but we're not your agent, and we don't know your particular business. So get good advice from qualified professionals before you take action. But a home-based business is going to create some liability for you that you may not have coverage for. You have a homeowner's insurance policy if you own your home. That policy will very likely have specific language called exclusions from coverage for anything related to commercial activity. So if, let's say, you're doing something in your garage to maybe make, I don't know, workbenches for somebody, or Adirondack chairs for flea markets, or you're doing something in your garage that is a commercial enterprise, that activity is very likely to be excluded from coverage from your homeowner's insurance policy. What does that mean? Well, sure, if somebody gets injured from one of your products, you're not going to be covered on your homeowner's policy, and you may not expect that. However, it could go a step further. If that activity causes damage to your house, if you're soldering some wires because you're building little ham radios, let's say, as a commercial business, and your soldering iron catches your house on fire, burns to the ground, it's possible that your insurance carrier might exclude that claim because it was a commercial activity. How are they going to find out? Facebook, eBay. They're going to look at your social media. They're going to look at your bank account to find out where you got income from in your tax returns. And if it can be proven that the activity that caused the damage to your house was because of a commercial enterprise, you might have exclusion of coverage. If you have tools or equipment in your house, or computers like you see behind us, if they're used for commercial purposes, they may not be covered. If you have a loss, if your house burns down and you lose $5,000 worth of tools that are commercial tools, that might be an exclusion of coverage. So you might want to add additional coverages. The one thing you'll find is those coverages are not very expensive. It's usually pretty cheap to add on endorsements for coverage for part-time or incidental business activities in a home. Now, if those business activities are creating more liability also, like product liability, then you might want to add additional coverage for that. If you have a certain professional designation, like if you're a CPA, accountant, attorney, you want to get separate coverage for that. E&O insurance, errors and omissions insurance. What if you're just selling stuff on eBay? You're selling, let's say, flea market products that you buy locally that you know will sell more on eBay. Well, you may want to get coverage for that. What if you buy something at a flea market that, unbeknownst to you, is a recalled product, and you sell it on eBay, somebody buys it and gets hurt, and they're injured? Can they sue you? Well, anybody can sue anybody. We know that for a fact. Will they win? Well, I don't know if they're going to win or not, but even if they don't, it's going to cost you a lot of money to defend that lawsuit. And if the attorney for the other side can demonstrate that this just wasn't a one-time thing, you just sold something from your garage or something you found in your attic, if they find that you have an ongoing enterprise of selling used items on eBay for the last 8 months or a year, and you've made, $62,000, they're going to say that's a commercial enterprise and you're liable because you're now a business. And if you don't have a separate LLC and, corporate firewalls, everything's on you individually, and everything you own personally is at risk. Remember, again, we're not attorneys. We're not giving you legal advice. Make sure you get good legal advice from a qualified attorney. But any business enterprise, even if you're not thinking of it, can create liability. So you might want to have a policy for that. In some cases, you may want to get a surety bond for some of your activities if you're dealing with the public. A general liability policy is usually pretty cheap. It's going to go by your revenue. So if you have a small business that does not make a lot of money, a GL policy will be cheap. You may want to look at other things like a BOP, a business owner's policy, which has a certain combination of coverages. There's also a CPP, commercial package policy, which has also certain coverage packages. Your insurance agent can normally help you with that. Whatever you have for insurance on your personal side, your personal lines coverages, home, auto, life, health, that same agent probably can help you answer questions about your commercial activities. They may have a different person in their office that handles that, but if it's a decent sized agency, they can probably help you out in their commercial lines division. You probably have more liability exposure and need for coverage for commercial lines than you think. Of course, nobody wants to pay money for insurance. There's an old joke that at a party, nobody wants to sit next to an insurance agent because they're just going to try to sell them insurance. But in this case, if you have any type of business activity that's creating revenue, generating money for you, you want to look to see how to protect that. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You probably don't have to spend as much as your agent might tell you, but you do want to have some type of basic protections and understand what they cover and what they don't cover. The most important thing to look at on an insurance policy is the exceptions or exclusions from coverage, so that you know what's specifically not going to be paid for if you have that type of claim. Most commercial policies also have legal defense. So if you get sued, even if you win, they cover that legal defense. And that could be more expensive than even the loss sometimes. Any type of litigation can be tens of thousands. It's very easy to hit $100,000 on a commercial or on a business litigation case. Piece of cake. Especially if there's some statutory or contractual requirement that you have to pay for the other side's attorney too if you lose. So that can add up quick. So you want to look at those coverages. Also, if you're using your vehicle for any kind of business activity, if you're shuttling parts between your warehouse and your home or whatever it is, you may also want to look at commercial auto. Because if the activity of your vehicle is discovered to be used, 70-80% for business purposes, bringing materials back and forth, even going to trade shows. We've seen claims denied because the vehicle, it was a van, was used to bring trade show materials, and that's really all it was used for. It was never used for any personal use. There was an accident, and it was denied because it was commercial policy. And you don't want to have that kind of denial because it can be an expensive event. You also don't want to get non-renewed on your personal lines because you're engaging in those kind of activities does not have coverage. Every type of business is different, but certainly any business activity is going to create exposure where somebody could claim loss, damage, lawsuit, and you want to be protected from that. The last thing for business insurance is cyber liability. Anything you're doing probably is online or it has some online component. What happens if you get hacked or you have some ransomware or somebody steals your customer files? Even if you're a small business that only sells, baby clothes through Facebook, if you have 200 or 300 customers and somebody somehow hacks in and gets those customer files and distributes them online, you could be liable. Most states have laws that put you in jeopardy if your customer private information is released to third parties. So you may want to have cyber liability insurance to protect you from that. This is not meant to be scary or make it harder to do business, but it's a one-time conversation you should have with a qualified insurance agent, commercial lines agent, to put together coverages for you so that you're not doing things that create exposure that you don't know about. Look, if you find you have certain types of risk or exposure and you're willing to take that risk, that's fine. That's up to you. But you don't want to have a risk that you're not aware of that could be life-changing or a financial disaster or crisis because you didn't know about it.